Hi, my name's James. I'm doing this video from the UK, and this is a reply to Pastor Dowell's "What colour was Jesus?" And as I said in a previous video, Pastor Dowell allowed to go up on his channel. I'm not a Bible person, but I do know that God exists 110% because of experiences that I've had through my life. But I just don't do the Bible, and that's it. And I'm going to come at this from a slightly different angle. I'm not going to quote the Bible and say the Bible proves that Jesus was black and this and that. I'm going to ask people if they've heard of the Church of St. Thomas in India. And again, as Pastor Dowell says, and as any good person on YouTube says, you know, do your research on this. And what I'll do is I will put a connection in the show description below this video. So if you just click show more, and I'll just put one connection, and you can go check it out, read it, and then you can do your own research. It's quite easy. Now I'm going to tell you about the Church of St. Thomas in India. In 1498, Vasco da Gama found a sea route to India. They'd known about India because of they backtracked the trade, and they were doing trade with the Middle East. You had the Mediterranean, the Middle East, but beyond the Middle East they didn't know anywhere because of the land. It was all cut off. They didn't know how to get to places, and they knew about India. And anyhow, they found a sea route. They made their way down the west coast of Africa, colonising as they went, planting the flag. This now belongs to us. And then they started moving up the east coast. They took Madagascar. The Portuguese took Madagascar, claimed that. This is now ours. And then they found their way across the Indian Ocean, and 1498 they landed in India. So Vasco da Gama's there, and all these Muslim traders are there because they've been going across the Arabian Sea, across the Indian Sea for hundreds and hundreds of years, for over 1,000 years. And so the Portuguese are now proud that they've found India, and they've claimed it, you know, to start claiming bits of it. And they had a big surprise coming for them, because they found a very large Christian community on the west coast of India. There was over 200 large churches, all established. It was a single authority, and when the service was held, this service was so close to the oldest church in Jerusalem, it was unbelievable. It barely differed from the oldest church in Jerusalem. I don't know the name of it, but it basically wasn't the Catholic Church. It wasn't the Holy Church of Rome service. It was more related to this church in Jerusalem, the oldest church in Jerusalem, the Eastern Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church. And one of the things that surprised the Portuguese when they arrived in India was all these churches, as I said. And you had all the murals on the wall, just like any other Christian church. And Jesus was, we'll say, dark-skinned. I'm not going to say what shade he was. I'm not going to say that he was jet black or he was like light brown, but he was basically dark-skinned. So this Christian church. So when the Portuguese are like going, well, how come this Christian church is here? Anyway, it all came out. This church was established by St. Thomas, and St. Thomas was one of Jesus' disciples. It was Doubting Thomas. And what he did was, after Jesus was put on the cross, the disciples all went their own ways, you know, doing their own things. They're all on a mission, doing this and that for God, whatever. Or not for God, or committing suicide like Judas did. And which I'll talk about one day. And Doubting Thomas made his way to India. And what he did was he converted some of the Hindus to Christianity, because So if you think about this, Jesus goes up on the cross, gets died, the Romans bump spear in the side. Disciples all split, they all go their own way. Doubting Thomas ends up in India. Next thing you know is he's converting Hindus. And you've got to think about the language barriers. This was some feat. You know, it was something to be admired in a way. And anyway, he set up this successful church. So 1,498 years later, oh no, it's the date of birth for Jesus, isn't it? Year zero, should we say. So we'll say 1,460 years later, the Portuguese arrive in India, and there's this successful church that is self-sufficient, gets on with the Hindus. You know, there's no trouble. It's not being persecuted. It doesn't persecute anyone in return. It's a successful church. It's a wealthy church. And the Portuguese don't like it. You know, reports get back to the Pope. So the second expedition comes to India. And they establish themselves even more. Third expedition comes, they establish themselves even more. They eject the Muslims, the Muslim traders, and they make it a monopoly that only the Portuguese can do the trade back and forth. So the Muslim traders have gone. This is like 1500 now, we're moving into the early 1500s. The thumb is put on the Indians, like the Indian rulers. Few cities are hit with cannons from the ships. You know, it's like it's been done before. It's colonialism. That's the way it works. And then the Pope sends a decree. All these churches now belong to the Holy Catholic Church. Just like that. So this 1,500-year-old church, right across the west coast of India, now belongs to the Catholic Church. They've took it. And one of the first things he did was whitewash the walls, redrew all the drawings, and Jesus was white. And that's all I've got to say. It's as simple as that. It's a fact. So I'll put a link below and you can research it and go look at it yourself. The Church of St. Thomas in India. It is the oldest Christian church. It's one of the oldest Christian churches in this world. And just think of the irony of this. I remember a couple of years ago I was watching something on the God channel or somewhere, and you had the evangelical American preachers in the church. We're raising money because we're sending missionaries to India, and we're going to teach them about Christianity, blah blah blah. They knew about it before you. One of Jesus' disciples shown them the way. And if you don't really believe that story, well, he pissed off the Hindus that much because he was converting that many of them. They actually killed him in the end. They had a great respect for him, but he was just going a bit too far. So he'd established the church, and then he moved into the interior to convert more Hindus, and he disappeared. He vanished. Basically, the Hindus killed him. But they did respect him. They respected his tenacity and whatever. And in Hindu temples, there's some Hindu temples over 1,000 years old, and they've got statues built into the walls of Doubting Thomas, one of Jesus' disciples, and it's a mark of respect that they put him there. We'll talk more one day about the Catholic Church. I'm sure Pastor Dow one day will get onto that subject. We'll talk about how they've changed history. You know, the history books are written by the victors. And there's one thing you've got to think about here. What the Catholic Church did was they broke up that Church of St. Thomas, and it's now, instead of being one united church all along the west coast, it's like 6, 7 different factions, which will never join up again. It'll never come the same way. In much the same way as the Muslims, as Sunni and Shia, they'll never join up again. You've got the Protestants, and you've got the Catholics, you've got all sorts in the Christian community. Wherever there's division, there's trouble, there's strife. So the Catholic Church did a good job. It broke up the Church of St. Thomas. It'll never challenge the power of the Vatican. They knew what they were doing, and the masters at it. And what they've done is they've basically erased that from the history of the Christian awareness. You know, a lot of Christians aren't aware of this, and you've got to. I think Pastor Dowell does talk about the fact that you should know your history, you should learn your history, because a lot of things that you need to know are there. You know, history repeats itself. And if you think of this now, how the Catholic Church erased Doubting Thomas and the Church of St. Thomas in India, which could be a lot of use in this world now, this knowledge that Jesus did exist, one of his disciples existed. You know, it's not a myth. The man existed, his disciples existed. It's not a myth. And just think now how Christian America, so-called Christian America, is trying to erase slavery from the history books as though it never happened. Just like the Catholic Church, the Vatican, tried to erase the Church of St. Thomas from the history of the world as though it never happened. Two little parallel things there. Know your history. Do your research. Okay.
Hello everybody. This video is to show you who the true Hebrews or Jews are, or Yehudim. The people in Israel right now are not Jews. They're Khazars. Your true Jews or your true Yehudim are the so-called black person, or African American as you like to call them sometimes. They're not African at all. They're the true Jews. They're the true Hebrews that were brought over here on ships, which the scriptures mention. If y'all are going to believe these lies, you're going to get misled, and that's the purpose of this. It's not about color, it's not about this and that, it's about identity theft. People's identity was stolen. They are the true Yehudim. They are God's or Yahuwah's chosen tribe, or chosen people, not the people in Israel. The people in Israel came from the Khazarian region in Russia. And these evil people, who were a warlike people, threw their own people under the bus and made them suffer in Germany. Yes, it was a very terrible, terrible thing they did. But they threw their own people under the bus in order to establish this lie and establish this nation under Satan. Because they use that satanic symbol, that star, which has nothing to do with David. They call it David's star. It has nothing to do with David. It's been a satanic star for thousands of years, and it's used to conjure up demons. You can look up any satanic website, or you can look up any Satan worship, and you'll find that star on the wall, on the floor, with candles around it. You'll find it everywhere. Your true Jews, your true Hebrews, are these people who you're still oppressing, these people who you're still calling names, these people who you like to make little funny remarks. You think they're funny. They're not funny at all. You need to get your head out of your butt and start doing research and quit following this, following all these distractions like football and all these supposed news stories that aren't news at all, to distract you. All your theme parks and your Disneyland, which is another satanic place full of witchcraft. I mean, just look at Harry Potter. And you need to get on your computer, this tool that we were blessed with by Yahuwah, and do some research, some real research. Not turn on your TV and watch the History Channel. You know, that's not research. You get on the computer and start digging, or don't even worry about it. Just believe what you believe. This is for people who have ears to hear. They threw their own people under the bus in order to establish this lie. The true Hebrews are your African Americans or black people. Those are the true Jews. or Yehudim is the correct term. Jew is a fairly new word. But your true Jews, or Yehudim, are the so-called black people, or African Americans. So, next time you want to name call and make funny remarks, keep in mind that you're talking about people that were chosen by Yahuwah, the Almighty. And He sees it. You also have people that were from other tribes. Anybody that's been oppressed or run down or run over. Your North American Indians were from a certain tribe of Israel. Your Mexicans were from a certain tribe of Israel. Your Arabs were from a certain tribe of Israel, although a lot of them are following false teachings, just like a lot of us are, though. In Christianity, people in Christianity are following all kinds of false teachings. And one of them is backing this Israel, this false nation that's been established. And a lot of people in Israel that are there, not a lot, but there's some people in Israel that even realize this lie and protest and know about this. They get a CIA agent or some undercover agent out there claiming to be Hezbollah or whoever, launch a toothpick of a missile over at Israel to give Israel the excuse to go bomb women and children and babies and bombard them with white phosphorus, which is a war crime that's never been addressed, and it's not being addressed. Make it look like it's being addressed a little bit, but it's all a show. All these leaders of all these countries are part of a 1% club, okay? And you're not part of it. So stop believing their lies and start listening to some of us here on the ground in the trenches that are doing the research. Let's look at a couple of scriptures here. Let's look at Revelations 2:9 and Revelations 3:9. It says in 2:9, Revelations, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Satan's seat is over there. Zeus. So right there it tells you. He knows the people which they say are Jews and are not. He knows. Okay? It tells you right here. And then in Revelations 3:9 it says, Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, with the star on their flag. It doesn't say that, but it's people with the star on their flag, the satanic star. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. So, there you go. It's right there in the scriptures. And it is a lie. Those are Khazars. They were a warlike people. They loved war. And then they threw their own people under the bus to set up this lie. I'm not saying everybody in Israel is a bad person. A lot of them have been brainwashed and are bad people now from believing the lie and saying that certain people should be wiped off the map and this and that. There's no love in that. How can you say you follow the Most High and condone women and children being blown to pieces? Condone children watching their parents being blown to pieces? How can you do that? In Amos 5:26 it says, But ye have borne the tabernacles of your Moloch, and shown your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourself. It's not a good star, people. The star has to do with Moloch and Rimfan. And a lot of people say, well, what's the purpose? Why do we need to know this? We need to know this because in the end days you're going to be following one thing and you're going to be led right into the fire. You need to know who the true Jews are, the so-called black people or African Americans. You need to know they are the true Jews because you're going to be following who you think are the real Jews and the leadership of who you think are the true Jews and the true chosen people. and you're going to be led right into the fire. You're going to be led right into the meat grinder. That's the purpose of knowing the lie. You need to know that that image of our Messiah, or that image claiming to be our Messiah, is not our Messiah. That's a portrait of Caesar Borgia, who saw himself as a Messiah-like figure. Messiah was not a white European with long hair. He was a dark-skinned Jew, or Yehudim. So it's about identity theft. These people suffered for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, you know. Although the people that went through what they did in Germany was a bad thing, but a very evil thing, well, these people are evil, and they'll do whatever it takes to take over the world and set their plan in action. And that means throwing their own people under the bus. They'll do that. And now a lot of these same people have been led to believe that lie, that they are the chosen people. Now, you know, everybody has salvation now, but we need to know who the true Yehudim, the true Jews were. The true Jews were your so-called black people, your so-called African Americans. They're not African Americans. They're Hebrew Israelites. They're the original Jews. That star and that flag should say it all.